Well, how will Gauteng rebuild after the recent unrest? We're expected to find out from Premier David Makhura today as he announces a range of measures to jumpstart the provincial economy. Khayelihle Khumalo is on this story for us and we cross to him now. Kaya, thank you so much for your time this morning. What are some of the efforts that the Premier is expected to announce?
Well, that's right, Annika. So quite a very monumental task for the country's economic hub. So in light of the recent sheer destruction, the lootings that we saw in a number of malls here in Gauteng as well, and other facilities as well that were affected. So the Premier is going to announce new measures of trying to make sure that this economy is revived, Annika. And of course, it's been a double blow because some of the very measures that we saw in just fighting coronavirus, some of them really had a very unintended consequences. But also, you had also the blow around the sheer destruction that we saw. But also, what has been a really key emphasis from the provincial government here in Gauteng has been the issue of rebuilding, especially making sure that small businesses as well are included, but also working with the mall owners as well, especially because where we are, it's actually not far from Soweto, where we really saw massive destruction, Annika. And we do understand that some of the malls have started really, just reopening, as it were. So there's still quite a lot of challenges really facing these key sectors for the economy.
Kaya, from an infrastructure point of view and some of those malls that were looted, how many of them can you see are up and running, and are people in Soweto able to get access to food, basic stuffs, or do they need to move out of the area to do their big sort of weekly shop?
Well, look, it is a big challenge, especially because now people have to travel far distance to go and buy. But you still do have a mall like Maponya Mall that is still functioning. You know, it was not affected by the looting. The community stood firm and said will not allow this facility to be affected. But the knock-on effects now are being felt by the residents in areas like Soweto that were heavily affected, because as much as some of the malls are slowly reopening, they are still rebuilding, they're still fixing the walls because the damage is quite massive. But also we do understand that in terms of the quantification of the cost, that is yet to be announced. We know that, for example, in eThekwini, KwaZulu-Natal to be precise, that was at least about 15 billion rand. And also we do expect also here a very significant amount because the infrastructure, a lot of facilities were affected during the course of the very terrible and a very turbulent phase for the business community at the height of looting.
So Kai, let's hope there's some more relief for small businesses. We know the President announced yesterday that Sasria is on board to help insurance-wise. What time is the Premier expected to announce some of these relief measures?
So, Annika, I can tell you this much. The Premier just arrived a short while ago, so this is expected to be announced exactly at 10 o'clock, and he's surrounded by some of his members of the Provincial Executive Council. So there's a great deal of expectations, really to see what's going to happen in the country's economic hub. You know that the story of Gauteng is always unique because this is where innovation starts. This is where a lot of processes really are kicked off. And when it comes to recovery and reconstruction, it should be able to lead and be able to make sure that this economy is revived after a very turbulent phase.
Khayelihle Khumalo, thank you so much for your time this morning. We'll touch base with you again once the Premier has announced some of those relief measures.